At the end of the day, we want our gymnasts to have as many options as possible for their skill work so that we can choose what's actually best for them. And if we have to limit it just because they're twisting the wrong direction, that was something that could have been easily fixed. That's an unfortunate circumstance that they get put in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NGA podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Grady, and I'm here with my incredible co-host,
Dr. Ian Kreider.
Rob Axelrod.
All right, so today we're going to break down this whole lefty versus righty thing. And the reason why is Ian and Rob say it's very important, but also...
Don't put this on us.
Also, it's something that I actually didn't hear really anything about when I started coaching, which I feel like would have been helpful. I did hear about it more when I started shadowing upper level coaches. When we were twisting, we started talking more about direction. But I do think it's something that new coaches need to learn. So, Ian, Rob, you guys are in charge of this segment.
Woohoo. Let's get it. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've worked on in our gym just recently, really, with even our preschool coaches and our rec coaches, those that are trying to get kids on the pre-team and such, trying to make sure that the kids are doing things consistently the correct way. And correct way, I don't mean that everyone should be righties or everyone should be lefties, but that everyone has kind of a predisposition to using one side more than the other. And it doesn't necessarily correlate with how you write or how you eat or how you throw a ball or something like that. In fact, I think it's more often that it crosses, and that, like, if you're right-handed, you're a lefty in gymnastics. It's not that way in the club that I'm working at right now, but I think that might just be because we didn't help them choose which leg to start with or whatever they were doing with their cartwheels when they were a little bitty. But yeah, it is something important. There is some continuity to skills, less so in women's gymnastics, more so in men's gymnastics. But still in women's gymnastics, there's some things that you kind of go, well, if you're going to switch back and forth on things, it's going to make it difficult. If you're going to, choose the wrong side, it makes things maybe a little bit more difficult. So it is something important, and we need to make sure that our young coaches are addressing it. And we'll give some little tips and tricks on how to do that.
Yeah, so our little ones in here are headed towards our pre-team. We have like superstars, and they're like 1 day a weekers, hour and a half. And then our pre-teams are gym stars, and they come 2 days a week for 2 hours at times. And each time they come in, they all get a red or a blue scrunchie, and it goes on their ankle. And then, the ankle left or right for if they're a righty. But, so how do you decide? So it takes a bunch of classes, maybe a couple of months even, to figure out which way they want to go. It has to be natural for them, and, letting them pick it. Like you say, it's not based on if you're a righty writer, because I tumble lefty. I can't even do a righty cartwheel anymore. But I also played the drums, so like that gives you like some ambidextrous, so you can do a lot of things lefty. But the correlation between being a right-handed writer is not always the same, or you might kick righty, but you cartwheel lefty, and that's fine too. But you have to figure out what they continue to go to and then go with it from there. So, but if they're lefty, then you got to stay lefty for everything. Their hurdle, their cartwheel, their round off, their twisting forward and backwards. And, okay, well, they're 3 years old, but that's where it starts. Because if they're 3 years old and they're doing, half turns or, jump full turn, or learning a full turn at some point in their life, or, swivel hips even on trampoline for which way they're going to twist. Because sometimes kids swivel hips on trampoline, they go backward, or they righty, they lefty, righty, they lefty. So, but all of those things are going to come back into play. And later on, at 7 or 8 years old, and they're doing your Chenko work, and all this time we're doing front handspring work on vault, you should look at what foot they're hurdling from. This is a big thing. I think we've talked about it once before in another podcast. But I have a girl, one of my athletes, level 9, she's struggling all of a sudden to do her Yurchenko. We're working through it, but let's play with some front handsprings or some sukes. And she hurdles off the complete different leg that she hurdles for a round off. And that should never be. And the only thing I would tell you is, you younger coaches, fix it now, because later on, when you go to try to fix it, you don't realize it. I think if you took a look at all of your level threes and fours and golds and kids that are doing front handsprings and half ons or half halves, what foot are they hurdling off of to hit the board? And then ask them to do hurdle round off and see if it's the same foot because the
Mhm.
hurdle should be the same.
Yeah, I just found this out about one of my gymnasts because she was having some trouble hurdling onto the board. She kind of does like a straight leg hurdle, and she's hitting the back of the board and all that. And I'm like, all right. So I set something up in front of the board so that way she would have to bend her knees, so that way she wouldn't kick it. She ended up apparently she's a little stubborn. She ended up kicking it anyway, and I was like, hey, what foot did you kick that with? She's like, oh, my right foot. I'm like, are you righty or lefty? She's like,
Right.
oh, I'm a righty. Like, wait a minute. That's the first foot that should be going over. Why was it the last foot going over and hitting it? So then I watched again. I was like, you're hurdling with your left leg. Of course, we're in the middle of season right now, so I'm not about to rock her world and
Yeah.
change her hurdle for
Flip it
the
all
half
on
her.
on.
In the
She's
middle.
not going to do that. But then I looked at floor, and she hurdles with the correct leg when she does like punch fronts on floor. I'm like, all
Right.
right.
So that's the whole idea is are they punch
Yeah.
fronting with the correct hurdle? Because then they should be hurdling with that leg to hit the board.
Yeah.
Same as if they're hurdling for a front handspring or a back handspring, it should be the same leg. And there's no reason that I can actually come up with of why somebody does their Yurchenko the same way they do everything on the floor, but then they do a front handspring over the table and they hurdle with the complete different leg.
Yeah.
So
No, it's just
Yeah,
a bad habit that they got into when they were doing
right.
stretch jumps onto the board or onto the stack mat, and they just never caught it, never changed it. So that's what they feel comfortable with, but it's probably not the thing that's actually most advantageous, efficient. Yeah, yeah. It's probably not going to work as well hurdling with the wrong leg because everything else they do in gymnastics is on the other leg.
Yeah, and I'll
Mhm.
just go back and tell you again, it starts in your pre-team. So take the time
Hmm.
with your younger coaches to explain that to them, and everything those little ones are doing should be on the same leg. And then once they figure it out, like now these kids have been in this class, 3-4 months. They all come in, they know where their thing is, they know what foot to put it on. Because if you ask them if they're a righty or a lefty, they have no idea because they
Right.
switch
Yeah.
hands when they're
They don't
writing.
even know what hand is their right or left.
They don't. It's just
That's
like when
very
you
true. Yeah.
Just like for your level threes, you put the assignment on the board, but they can't read. So what are you doing? They
Absolutely.
struggle with their letters. Then the other thing is that you'll run into later on the kid that does a righty round off, if you're doing a round off a beam, and they're going to lefty twist, it kind of doesn't work. So you
Yeah,
want
because
them to
they
go in
have
the
the
same
wrong foot in
direction.
front. And
And a lot of
yep.
kids you'll see like to normally go forwards a different way than they go backwards. That's not such a big deal. And if it's something that you're dealing with, don't try to change it now, especially if they're, 8 or 10 years old. Just let it go.
Yeah.
But if you can start that sooner, with the little ones, you'll probably save yourself a lot of trouble later on trying to figure it out. And there's a couple little things too. I mean, if you go and you want to rent a snowboard to go snowboarding for the first time, they ask you what foot you want to put in front, and you say you don't know. And they ask you to turn around and they gently tap you from the back, and whatever foot steps forward first, that's the foot that should be in the front. That could determine you being a righty or lefty also.
Yep. That's usually what I do with little ones that don't know or just kind of seem to do whatever they want to. I'll do the little quick shove and see which one they do, or I'll tell them to kick something, or I'll have them jump and spin around. And usually, especially if I do 2 or 3 of those kind of tests, it'll tell me if they have one side dominant or the other.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you could if you all have a pit in your gym, you could just take a bunch of pit blocks, throw them out on the floor, and have the kids kick them in and see which kids kick with both feet or with some of them only kick with one.
Yep.
That's a big help too.
Yep. Yep.
Fluff up your pit too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
I
say
was
the front
just
twisting
gonna
and
say
back
that.
twisting thing, this is the one where it matters more for men's gymnastics than it does for women's gymnastics. Simply because most of the time women aren't doing a lot of souk twisting, but they do some souk twisting. So if they can front twist and back twist the same way, it does make souks much easier because then you can do a kazamatsu vault, which is you never actually complete the half on or
Yeah,
like that, the half twist. You just do like cartwheel on and you stay sideways and then you look at the ground and then you just do a front twist out of it. And so if you're doing a lefty round off and you block, but then you twist right forward, it's really going to mess with you. Whereas if you do a left twist forward, you block, you duck, and then you can just do a brainy out or a front half out, and everything flows, and that's your souk full. But
yeah. I
it's a
mean,
kazamatsu. Yeah.
it's a whole nother podcast. But if you're thinking about kids that are doing souks and twisting, teach them how to do a sideward summy
Mhm.
land sideways, then jump turn. There's your suit full. There's your cause. But it's also the same for the kid that's on floor going forwards, and if they're doing front tuck step outs and then round off in, and they're stepping out on different feet and they're round offing with different feet, and it gets a little tricky there. And then also the other problem is for halves, which a lot of us like to teach the kid, is an easy
Yeah.
vault at like an Excel type or a color type level where they have to half the opposite way in order to get credit. So now you're confusing them a little bit. So they're righty on, but they're lefty off for a twist, but they're not going to be lefty twisted later, like if they're doing a front handspring full. So
Yeah.
that does mess with them a little bit, and it will confuse the kids. But you have to explain that. So
Yep. Yeah, and then the other place where back and front twisting need to be the same would be if you're teaching half and half outs. So a lot of times when you're teaching twisting bar dismounts, you'll start with full outs or half and half outs before you try to do any full in or double double or something like that. And so if you go half in on the first flip, that's a back twist, and if you go half out on the second flip, that's a front twist, and that could really mess with you too. So there are some skills that make it more important to be able to do a same twist both direction or both flipping directions forward and backward. Like what Rob said, it's not the end of the world if they twist both. It just limits some things that they're able to do. And at the end of the day, we want our gymnasts to have as many options as possible for their skill work. So that a way we can choose what's actually best for them. And if we have to limit it just because they're twisting the wrong direction, and that was something that could have been easily fixed, well, then that's an unfortunate circumstance that they get put in. But by the time they're working half and half outs off of bars, they're probably not going to change the way they front twist.
yeah, right, exactly. Well, and the other
Hopefully,
thing to think about too is that you want to spend all this time on this cartwheel with these little kids, and I just learned that the best way to teach cartwheel is stop teaching it. They're going to learn it on their front yard or their kitchen
right?
floor better than they are in the gym, because it's like every drill in the book is just it's hard, right? Like all
Yeah,
of a sudden,
There's so many
how come these
drills.
kids on the beach are doing cartwheels and like they're gymnasts? And because they taught it to themselves. So don't get
yeah,
hung up on your cartwheels. But as soon as you can, and they have a great cartwheel, make sure you do both sides. Make sure you do front walkovers on both sides, do back walkovers on both sides. We're finding so many back injuries lately in gymnastics because I think coaches are forgetting to put that little tidbit back in there. Make sure you do both sides.
yeah, yeah. It's something that I like as a PT. Whenever I have golfers or baseball players, I encourage them to like. You don't have to be taking full 80, 90 mile an hour swings, fastball swings on your non-dominant side, but just after you get done with batting practice, just turn around and kind of swing the other way a few times. Same thing with golf. If you're out there and you're going to go on the drive, like, this, like serious golfers, not weekend golfers, but serious golfers, if you're out there on the driving range for an hour, hour and a half, like turn around every once in a while, swing the other way, just get your body moving that other way just to make sure that you stay relatively even.
Yeah,
It's not going to
relatively.
be, don't do a 1-to-1, but because you're just wasting time at that point, I think. But yeah, you want to develop both sides pretty evenly.
It's funny, some of the gymnasts that I've coached over the years that were fitness competitors. Let's see if I have a picture. This is from yesterday, actually. Just was one of my friends had posted. It's my friend's daughter that I coached in fitness. And I'll show you the picture of her back. Trying to keep her whole body out of the picture there, but if you look at her back, the one lat is longer than the other.
Oh yeah, pretty significantly.
And
Yeah.
so we see that a lot in the gymnastics world because you're overdeveloping the one side,
Hmm.
um, and
Oh,
never doing the
interesting.
other side. And then later on, these girls here want to do some bodybuilding or some figure modeling or fitness modeling, and they're developing their back and they're learning how to flex those muscles. And you notice, wow, that thing's like 2 to 3 inches off that one lat because
Yeah.
of all the sports that they played and the gymnastics that they did.
Yep. You're probably going to see it less often in men's gymnastics just because muscular wise, men's gymnastics, you develop so much anyway. And all of your strength moves are bilateral. We're not doing the Olympic cross anymore where you're doing the
Yeah.
cross that's turned or so you're pretty even on your multis and your cross and your inverts and all that. when you
Yeah,
swing on parallel bars, yeah, you twist one way, but you're swinging on both
you're
arms,
swinging on both arms.
you
Yeah, it's
know?
not the same for the girls though. They're on
Yeah.
beam and they're switch leaping on one side only. And, they're switch turning or they're switch halving or they're straddling and straddle halving and they're only going one way.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yes, I would say I definitely see imbalances a lot more often in women's gymnastics than I see men's gymnastics.
and I feel like that's just gonna ultimately spiral us right back to where we started with the little ones. There's other ways to do it. We just started to use the scrunchies.
Yeah.
They were easy to
Yeah.
put in a bag, and they were easy for the kids to put on and off because we used to do a stamp. You stamp their foot. But, the little ones, "Well, I wanna stamp on the other foot." "Well, what foot did we stamp last time?" They don't remember. So
Right.
now if you didn't write it down, which is another thing I suggest, have a list of
Yep.
of your pre-teamers. We have like 18 little pre-teamers between the ages of 3 and 5, and they're all part of this pre-team program. The gym stars actually compete. We'll compete them as bronzes and try to get them to level 3 the following year. Even they don't remember because they're 5. They're allowed to compete as bronze at 5 years old.
Right.
So at
Yeah.
level 3, you need to be 6. So that 1 year, and it depends. We get some 4-year-olds that are more mentally and coordination wise developed with gross motor skills better than some of our 7-year-olds.
Mhm.
So, you can't just say, "Oh, okay, you're 3. Oh, you're only 4." There's exceptions to all of those rules, but they won't remember what foot you put the stamp on or even what foot they put the scrunchie on their foot. But it
Right.
seems to be working well. Then we have some cartwheel mats that one of our preschool teachers and our gym star teachers, she made out of long white carpet, and she put round circles, and she put a small circle for where your foot goes or your hand goes, and then a big circle for where 2 feet go for like your round off or your cartwheel.
Mhm.
And she matched them going opposite directions. So if you're a righty, the red dots line up if you do a righty cartwheel, and they're lefty, they're blue or whatever. If blue for the righty or red for the
Mm.
lefty, they're all
Yeah, so
Oh,
you're,
yeah,
like,
that's smart
color
because you
coordinating
use the
with
blue and red scrunchies.
yeah.
Yeah.
right,
That's
right.
actually a really good
Yeah,
idea.
I can, next time we do some video work and stuff, I'll take some pictures of them and show you. That's a great little idea because, you have the hands and the feet that were there, and these are more picturesque where the kids are trying to match their hands to the hands and the distance is wrong because it's
Right.
predetermined. So now they're just a
Yep.
dot. One's a big dot and one's a small dot. So,
Yeah, I like
but it
that,
works
and
well because if you have the lefty thing is blue. I don't know what their color is, but I should know, right? But so like I say lefty is blue, and so then I'm gonna match my blue foot up with my blue dot, and then that's where I'm gonna go. So
mhm.
it's been working out really well. The little ones are getting pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool, I like that idea. I think we did stamps at one of
Yeah,
the
stamps
gyms,
are great,
and
but
they're
unless you
hard to
remember
see,
what foot you
though.
put it on, and then
Yeah.
they wash off because the kids are staring at it and they're looking at it. Whereas for us, I'm saying there's got to be other ways to think about doing it also. But I mean, you could do a hair tie on a wrist, so it's smaller because the scrunchie is a little bit big, and I get nervous. I go, they're going to trip over the scrunchie on their foot. They haven't, but
Well,
those
and
are the
also
thoughts that I put in there.
3 to 5-year-olds will trip over anything, really.
They
So,
Yeah.
they
the
fall
scrunchie's
standing
not gonna.
still, I say.
I mean, let's be
That's right.
honest, people in gymnastics will trip over anything, like, you don't have to be 3 to
Yep.
5.
I don't know if I have one in here. Hold on a second.
That's so funny.
So we have a scrunchie that they put on their leg, right? Later on, you want to do some cartwheels, and they can take it off and put it on their thumbs for a thumb strap helps to
Oh, yeah.
keep their arms. So we have
Oh.
these in the gym, not scrunchy wise, but they work well also. And the thing about it is, it's better than putting your hands through and trying to do a cartwheel because now you can hurt yourself. Whereas if it's
Yeah.
on your thumbs and slips off, well, you just go. So it's no
Yeah.
problem. So we have little 6-inch circles in the gym made out of webbing material, like strap material for strap
Okay.
bar, and we use those for you can go round up back handstring with them, you can standing back handstrings on trampoline with them, you can swing with them and cartwheel with them and round off with them on your thumbs, and that really helps, especially kids that don't know how to keep their hands up. And obviously, I don't teach starting back handstrings with your hands in the air. I have them go from here and swing. We've talked about that before in our your Chenkov stuff that we've talked about, but so the scrunchie comes in handy later on, while you're in your practice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Nice.
I'm learning so much right now.
See, and you thought this podcast was gonna be boring. There's such good things.
Yeah, I told you we could do a righty lefty for a good hour.
No, I think those are cute ideas, and yes, it's very
And
important
if anybody else has some other good ideas they want to share with us, tell us.
Yeah.
Just because what we found works doesn't mean it's the only way. I'm always looking for a new way.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
I will tell you though that the whole scrunchie thing does work better if you just stick to 2 colors.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we do the same thing with our little ones. We call them
Not a good
our
idea.
Devo team, our developmental team, and so we use just random scrunchies that we have. I think we got like some bulk order scrunchies or something. So they're all like tie dyed and fun colors and whatever. But I like your 2-color system a lot better because then it could be like, all right, red's over here, blue's over here,
Yeah,
and
and
so
then make
Mhm.
it fun. Pick the colors that
yep,
work for your gym, you know?
yep,
Yeah. And then you know that it's on the right leg or the left leg because, like some of them are just be like, oh, scrunchie, and just put it on any leg and not even
Right,
pay
and they just put it on
attention.
their leg, and then the next thing you know, they're hurdling with the non-scrunchy leg. You're like, "What are you doing?" "Hey,
yeah.
oh,
I
I
just thought
forgot,
it looked pretty.
You're 4.
Oh, goodness, yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Any last words about this lefty righty
Well, my last word for you
business?
is about age, right? And so if you start thinking about how old these kids are and what you're expecting them to do, you take a 6-year-old who can get up and do 10 chin-up pullovers. Think about the 6-year-old that's in class with her at school that can't do a single pull-up or any of those things. And then remember, take a look down at your shoes or your sweatshirt. How old is your sweatshirt? I mean, I know I have some sweatshirts that are 10 years old or 12 years old.
Right.
These kids are 4, 5, 6.
Yep. Got socks that are older than these kids.
Exactly.
I really feel like you should be switching out socks a lot
I
sooner
just
than.
did. I just did all. We can give Bombas a little,
Oh, yeah,
plug.
there you go. Yeah, Bombas, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
actually, funny enough, my wife just looked at some of, my boot socks the other day, and she was like, "These things are threadbare. You need new." I was like, "Yeah, they work.
Yeah.
They
I
cover
just
most of my
purged all
ankle."
my old ones, put them in a thing, dropped them off at the donation today, and spent $300 on socks. What kind of idiot does that?
I mean, are they going to last
I
forever?
don't know. We'll find out, right? If you Bombas, you
Like
could put
literally forever.
$20 a pair. Ridiculous. But hey, well, you don't have to do
Uh,
that. You could switch your socks out for the Costco brand.
that's right. That's what I
Hey,
did.
they sell Pumas at Costco.
I know. I have those too. But
Yeah.
I just purged all of them. They were only a couple of years old.
Well, I guess we're wrapping right now because now we're
Rapping
talking about nonsense.
nonsense.
All right, everyone. I hope Rob and Ian gave you some helpful information on righty versus lefty. If you have any great ideas about how you do this in your gym, any fun ways that you do it with your developmentals or little kids, let us know because I'm sure everyone's looking for ideas. I know we definitely are. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with anyone who could benefit from the conversation. And until next time, stay happy, healthy, and high performing.